Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberker. EU citizens in 27 countries voted in the European Parliament elections on Sunday. The latest results show that far-right parties have made significant gains, although not enough to take over the parliament itself. But their strong performance was a wake-up call for many European leaders. Survey results show that the top issues for voters were the economy, international conflicts and migration. In France, Marine Le Pen's far-right national rally claimed victory with over 30% of the vote, more than double than the centrist Renaissance Party. In response, French President Emmanuel Macron dissolved parliament and called for snap elections. And in Germany, Chancellor Olaf Scholz' Social Democrats lost out to the far-right AfD party, which is not currently part of any larger group in the European Parliament. One of the biggest winners of the night was Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, whose right-wing party finished with nearly 30% of the vote. The European Parliament holds its elections every 5 years and approves EU laws and international treaties, and will have major sway over issues like migration. And now for more on the EU's parliamentary elections, joining me now from Rome is Valeria Giannotta. She is the scientific director of the Observatory on Turkey at the Center for International Political Studies. And from Istanbul, Aylin Ünver Noi, a professor at Haliç University. Ladies, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Valeria, let me begin with you. What do you make of these election results? Did they come to you as a surprise?
Yes or no. I mean, it was clear since long that the far-right movements were increasing in Europe. Therefore, what happened in Italy, my country, in Germany, France, Austria, and Belgium, and Netherlands wasn't that surprising. What makes the difference is there is a sort of polarization within the European borders between the northern countries, the Scandinavian countries. They are still supporting a sort of green policies and liberal policies, while the Mediterranean basin and also some continental Europe are voting for extremist group, and I think this is going to be this was a huge signal in terms that people are pretty much against the establishment, the continental establishment nowadays in Italy. They perceive the decision makers as far away, as too much bureaucratic and interest based, basically far away from the need and the request of the civil society and from the people. It's an important signal for a change overall when we entangle some specific issues such as irregular migrations, economy, inflation, and also the environmental policies that this European Union has been promoting. This does not mean that who voted for the far-right groups are against the environmental or green policies, but they are against this sort of regulatory approach, which is pretty much distant from the bottom of the society.
So, Aylin, sorry to interrupt, but I want to move on. I wonder, Aylin, what you think. Is Europe facing a dramatic shift in politics, and where will anti-immigration policies begin to gain momentum amid these results?
Actually, there's a sharp right turn at the European Parliament. EPP, the Christian Democrats, still the largest group in the European Parliament. But there's a rise in the far-right parties, and ECR and ID votes increased at this election. This means that most of these parties are anti-immigrant parties, and of course their policies will have an impact on the other moderate or center political parties to change their discourses and their policies on this issue as well. And recently, the European Parliament adopted the Pact on the Immigration and Asylum Policy. So we are seeing more the border control increased in the EU in comparison to previous years. And also we were seeing some efforts of especially Meloni's efforts to meet the Northern African countries' leaders to stop immigration in the Northern Africa. And so the asylum policies is talking to keep these asylum seekers on the third countries. So the change already started about the immigration policies
Yes.
in the EU. Of course, these far-right parties made a huge impact on this decision.
So, Valeria, if we put aside the migration issue, how will these results impact the growing tide of anti-Muslim sentiments and xenophobia across the continent?
Yes, there is this risk. But of course, I mean, there is a risk when we look at the spectrum from a national and domestic level. In terms of European Union policy composition, I think nothing will really change so dramatically. In terms, as Eileen just said before, that European People Party and the coalition that was made before is still a dominant coalition. Of course, it has to come to terms with the other conservative groups. Mm-hmm. Definitely, when it comes to migration, the approach that the so-called far-right nations are calling for is just a more secure approach, going on with outsourcing, externalization of the security issue has a trend that was already initiated back in 2016 along Angela Merkel and the Turkey agreement. We have seen the same type of agreement signed by Italy and Albania 1 year ago. And again, most recently, we have been witnessing the attempt of the Italy and European Union bloc with Al-Sisi's Egypt in order to regulate and mitigate the migration phenomenon. Of course, in this migration dossier, Italy plays a crucial role, as well as the so-called African plan. Yes. That Italy has been applying and has been promoting, which will have also a great impact in terms of a European plan for Africa, in terms of helping people developing the African countries.
So if you will, I just want to bring up some numbers from the election. Although center-right parties stood their ground in the European Parliament vote, it seems they'll come under pressure from far-right groups. So France's RN gained 31% of the votes, which translates to 30 seats in the European Parliament. 5 years ago, it took just 23% of the vote. Far-right parties also surged in Germany, by the way. The anti-immigration AfD party saw its total vote share rise from 11% in 2019 to 15% in this election, winning 15 seats. So, Eileen, what will the next months and years look like with this increased far-right presence in the European Parliament, especially when it comes to things like migration or dealing with security challenges?
What we have seen is that the far-right parties are not marginal parties in the Europe anymore. At the national level, they also increased their voice. They became the first, second, and third parties in Germany and France and many European Union member states. And the picture we have seen at the European Parliament is not a big surprise in this respect. But of course, they will have an impact on mainstream parties, and also they have an opportunity to form coalition in the European Parliament to make an impact on some decisions. The major impact I expect from them on Green Deal. Because especially the voters expressed their dissatisfaction with the Green Deal, and the most of the voters' concern was their cost of living. So this Green Bill creates a kind of a burden, like we have seen in the farmers' protests, because they were against some implementation of the Green Deal. So they want the Green Deal, but they are opposed to the speedy or fast implementation of it. And also the Euro chambers and the others, also the business circles, are opposed to implementation of this deal. Yes. That might have a burden on the economy and the cost of production and the cost of living of the voters. In the EU member states.
So, Valeria, what do you think? Given a significant defeat suffered by the Greens, how would these election results impact the Green Deal, which is one of the world's, naturally the European Union's most ambitious climate change policies?
I think the Green Deal will be still valid. What people are not happy with is just the regulation on some specific issues. And there is also a divide between the northern European countries and the continental and Mediterranean countries, because some of the reforms proposed by Brussels are not so very well received by the Mediterranean countries, for example, Italy, in terms of infrastructures, in terms as well of development. We are not so ready to receive such a change along to such a regulation. So I do believe that in general, the people are not unhappy with the environmental policies, with the Green Deal, but they are unhappy with the regulations, with the bureaucratic impact in terms of daily life, in terms of reforming the infrastructure and the services within the country. So I do believe that the Green Deal will be still a valid tool, but the application has to change. The policies have to change.
So, Aylin, are these results significant enough to affect Turkey's relations with the European Union? What are the prospects for social and economic relations moving forward?
When we look at the EU-Turkey relations, I'm curious about that there is such a relation in terms of, there's no positive agenda established between two, and the EU-Turkey accession negotiations already de facto frozen. So I don't expect an immediate change. But on the other hand, when we are talking about the immigration issue, energy security, food security, cost of living, and the security of the European, they can't think all these issues without Turkey. And so in the future, we will see, yes, a kind of a relationship again that needs to be tackle all the problems we have. And so the restart of the relationship and mostly the restart accession negotiations is important to further develop the EU-Turkey relations and to tackle all these common threats and challenges we have facing in this developing and changing world environment.
All right, Aylin and Valeria, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.